Harvey Winemum here, and the good news is that I finally have the time to properly make this video. And there is no real bad news other than I might not say the things that I really want to say because I forget and I go on a tangent. But because this is all unscripted, but I've been wanting to make this video for a long time. And one of the reasons that I held off on making it was because there's a kind of guilt that I have with imparting negative ideas into the world for other people to listen to. In a strange way, I almost feel that there's a responsibility attached to shielding people from certain ideas that are emotionally damaging. However, it doesn't seem to me that other people take this precaution, okay? A lot of people seem to shoot their mouth off with lots of different ideas, no matter how potentially damaging they could be for people's perception of themselves and the world and history. So there's almost this abandoning of morality that's happening with me, because if everybody else is talking about this or starting to talk about this, and I don't, because I don't want these ideas to spread because I think that they're damaging, even if they're true, then all I'm doing is I'm just not participating in the conversation, even though the conversation is happening with or without me. You know, it's going to happen. So I can either choose to be part of it or I can choose to not be part of it. And I choose to be part of it now. And so I'm going to talk about the things that I don't want to really talk about in one big video. And then hopefully I can find little smaller videos to make topics on. So the last video that I made, which I titled something along the lines of the after the fact effect, it kind of touched on the main crux of my understanding of how things work in the system. And if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. It's this third video on my channel, and I uploaded it a couple of days ago. There's some gameplay in the background. You know, it's not going to be like this one. This one is just pure unfiltered rant. There's no editing. I kind of want the black screen because it's important to the context of what I'm talking about. But in the after the fact effect, one of the things that I mentioned is that this is a repeating cycle of bad thing happens, government convinces you bad thing is actually good, and then once it's revealed after the fact that the bad thing was actually bad, they say to you, it's an unfortunate circumstance, but there's nothing that we can do about it now, so we just all have to get over it. Okay? And that is a repeating pattern that I've noticed throughout history over the last 150 years, 200 years. Certainly since the Industrial Revolution started to take off. I actually think it started off with that. It started off with the Luddites. It started off with the weavers and these people, where they said, you know, oh, it's a good thing, it will make your life easier. And then it took their jobs away and they said, oh, well, actually, we didn't see that happening, but there's nothing we can do about it now. And so we just all have to get over it. That was probably the first instance of that happening. But this happens in the First World War, the Boer War, even before that, Second World War, Vietnam War, Korean War, social policy, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, and it will be the same with the new things that are happening. And also it will be the same when European countries and North America turn into South Africa. They'll have the same thing they'll speak about the same thing, that, you know, we just didn't foresee this coming, despite the fact that everybody's now noticing it. They'll say that they never saw it coming, but it's too late to do anything now. We just have to move on, and we need to accept the new society that we live in. And it just repeats. And for the longest time, normal people never spoke about this. They didn't know about this. It was invisible to them for some reason. But now I'm starting to notice that other people are noticing. And it took them long enough. And it seems like for a long time, normal people don't pick up on things until it's too late. That the window of noticing the change doesn't happen for most normal people until it's irreversible. Have you noticed that? Because I have. And so people who were in the alt-right space, for instance, identity politics in 2016, for example, we're already 10 years ahead. You know, where the average person is now with immigration, mass migration, noticing the peddlers of destruction, you know, this is all stuff that we were talking about 10 years ago. And that's not a brag. That's not me saying that you're behind and you're a laggard or whatever. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm just stating the obvious. So there are lots of people in my position who are very disillusioned because of that. Because for 10 years, people were telling you that this needs to be changed, that we need to do something about it, that this is happening, that this is not a conspiracy theory, that this is really happening, this is not in our heads, this is really happening. And nobody wanted to listen. Nobody cared. You were ostracized, you were labeled an agitator, an incel, you know, you were labeled all of these things. When you start to notice trends, and like a Cassandra, like Michael Burry, I mentioned that in my last video too, you start to tell everyone, because you want people to fucking help you, because social change doesn't happen unless groups change things. This is obvious throughout history. So you want people to be involved, but they don't care. So you become jaded. You know, I'm a very jaded man. I'll tell you that much. I'm a very jaded man. I'm jaded with how my life has gone. I'm jaded with how society has gone. I'm jaded with the lack of progress, real progress in my lifetime. People talk about how the world has changed so quickly. No, it hasn't, bro. If you removed the smartphone, what would change? If you removed the smartphone from existence, would you be able to tell the difference between 1996 and today? If you removed the smartphone and all of its variants, the iPad, flat screens, if you removed these things, what's the difference between society today and society in 1996, technologically speaking? There is no difference. There's only the illusion of progress that happens when one particular technology gets invented and they just put it everywhere. So it looks like, oh, this is different. And the little pea brains of most people think that this is a massive difference, when it really isn't. If you just remove one element from your society, the smartphone, the flat screen television, whatever, nothing is different from 1996. Now, socially speaking, we live in a very different world. Very different. Very different. I will grant you that much. This is an alien world to live in compared to the world in 1996, I imagine, because I wasn't born yet. But I imagine it was, right? Very different. Especially the relations between the sexes, men and women, how they viewed each other. I bet you it's very different. But social media, it pushes these ideas. Obviously, we know this. I don't need to reinvent the wheel with talking about that. But that's where all the social change is coming from. It's coming from that one technology that they've come up with over the last 10 years. Okay? The one thing, the smartphone, the internet. Right? It's all just coming from one thing. Because that's the only thing they've come up with. So there is no real change happening. What is happening is a degradation of society. That society is actually getting worse. And they're painting over the cracks with these bright flashing technological doodads for you to be dazzled by because you're a fucking idiot who just needs a flashing light blinking in his face in order to think that we're moving forward. When clearly, in every other metric, we are moving backwards. And I think people are going to wake up to this, and I think they are waking up to it. I think the last 10 years of the great noticing, people call it that, will be cut in half. So there'll be a 5-year window where normal people will catch up. I think it's going to accelerate. I think the stuff that we're talking about now in 2026 will be mainstream in 2030 as opposed to 2036. And the biggest change will be the antinatalism discussion, which I already see amongst women. I think women... people get it wrong, I think, when they say that men make women change. No, I think women decide, ultimately. You know, they check the air of the society. And if the winds of the air are fast moving, they will... chance it. You know, they'll stick their neck out and they'll try to make big changes. The first one that we can see, the massive change in recent history, was the suffrage movement. They stuck their neck out because they saw an opportunity. And then men followed along with it because men follow women, ultimately. I think for the vast majority of cases anyway, men follow women. And women only follow a very select group of men. I already see people online, on Discord, Telegram, just parroting the same antinatalism stuff that goes around in my head. And I actually don't know where it comes from. I can't point to a specific YouTube channel or anything like that. It's just a collection of things that you come across in your life and the thoughts that you have, and you just put the puzzle pieces together and you really ask yourself, is it worth it? Is this shit worth it? If the average person is not willing to stand up for your civilization, and at every single turn try to shut you down and make you an enemy when you're the only person speaking sense and trying to get people on board with ideas of saving this sinking ship, then the one question I would have to ask is why I would even contribute another person to be ground into the meat grinder. You know, if my parents were not appreciated for being born into the meat grinder, if I am not appreciated for being born into the meat grinder, why would I bring someone else here to be unappreciated for their efforts? In fact, in the changing winds of the world that we live in now, my kids will be worse off than me in almost every respect. And they won't know the old world. You know, I got to see a glimpse of it in the early 2000s. I got to see a very small glimpse at the tail end of when the world wasn't fucked up. I mean, the world's always been fucked up, but you know the context that I'm talking about. I got to see a small glimpse of that. And, you know, that kind of haunts me sometimes, knowing that these things were different, and yet we have to pretend that it's always been this way. And then any change that does come, people say is ultimately good because it empowers people who were not empowered. But what happens when empowering people who were disempowered makes life worse for everyone, and that there's a reason why these people didn't have power in the past? People always think it's a negative thing. Gatekeeping power. Gatekeeping influence. People think it's a bad thing. That everybody has this secret sauce idea that the elites don't want people coming across because it will make life better for everyone. Right? You know, what if it's the opposite? What if the reason society was gatekept all this time is because they knew how destructive the average person can be when they get a microphone, and they're able to disseminate ideas throughout the population? I mean, look at the black pill. Look at what that's done. You know, when it first happened, people thought it was the answer. This is the big red pill answer. We're gonna fix society. Just like with every single idea that people come across, they think it's the one thing that's going to fix everything. You know, it's going to fix the birth rates. It's going to fix, you know, my life. I finally understand how things work now. And I have the same opinion when it comes to who controls things. You know, I really thought that the final answer was how should I say it? The group who shall not be named. I'm sure you'll know who I mean by that then. You know, I thought it was the group that should not be named who are like the sole controllers of everything. And it's clearly not true, because women seem to be the foot soldiers. There seems to be an alliance between women, white women, and the group who shall not be named. And that their goals are very similar. Their way of thinking is very similar. Their whole modus operandi is very similar. Feeling that they're a victim, they're punished, a great injustice, thousands of years, It's very similar. Similar mentality. And they all point their finger at the same person for the reason for their troubles. And I just don't see a way out. Like, if your own women don't want you to survive, if your own women don't care about reproduction, they don't care about saving this, they only care about themselves, they view their sexual rights as their right to have premarital sex with as many people as possible is more important than the right of a species to continue itself. You're done. You're finished. And we've been finished for a long time. But the problem is that people don't die instantaneously as soon as they stop reproduction. We're not like these Alaskan salmon or whatever that start to decompose as soon as they fertilize eggs, right? You know, we still linger on. This is a long process. The process of group extinction is a long drawn out process where in the middle of it you have all of these talking heads with all of these talking ideas about how to change things, and nothing ever gets done. And by the time you look around, you're already in South Africa, and then you look around again and there's nobody else who looks like you. And all the ideas that your people came up with are eliminated across time. And the inventions are given to other people. They're credited to other people. So I don't really have an answer as to what we can do about it, other than maybe we just have to spread awareness, just keep spreading awareness, and hope and try to speed up the process from for the average person being unaware of things to becoming aware of things. Maybe we just have to keep making stuff and hope that people speed up the process of awakening, I guess, if you want to call it that, awakening. I mean, is it really awakening, or is it actually putting your soul to sleep, killing your soul, when you realize just the massive industrial scale evil that goes on? You know, there's nights that I stay awake at night because I wish I never knew any of this. It goes around in my head all the time, all of the little fine details of what's going on. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you're just assaulted on all fronts. The old people don't care about the youth. The women don't care about the men. The white women don't care about the white men. The immigrants hate the natives. Your kids hate you because they think that you're responsible. It's like at all fronts, everybody fucking hates you. Everybody is blaming you for what's going on. Everybody has a secret resentment. Men your own age are competing with you for scraps for these crazy women who are on medications because their minds are fucked up. And they're backstabbing each other and they're talking shit about each other. Just for scraps, just for the slightest hope that they can pretend to have a nuclear family and a man and woman relationship. They want to have this thing. And they want to pretend that it's real. They want to pretend that she really feels this way and she's not just using him. I mean, it's fucked. Like, on so many different fronts, it's completely barbecued. And you know, in a lot of ways, I'm tied between spreading this information and keeping my mouth shut. This is why I keep my mouth shut. This is why I don't make videos. This is why I don't talk about things. Because I don't really want people turning into me. Because this information is... I think there's a channel called Western Decline. And he speaks about something called info hazards, information hazards. Which is to say, the information equivalent of a biohazard, a biological hazard, right? Information hazard. That coming across it certain information can be hazardous to your life and to your mental health. And it can make you ill. And the more aware you become, the more that you start to realize just how slanted the world really is towards bad things. I'll refuse the word evil, just because I don't really want to do the moral thing, because you can say, well, is it really evil or is it just survival? You know, I'm not having this conversation. I'll use the term bad things, because something that is bad can also be something that is survival, as opposed to being evil, which sounds like an intentional thing. It might not be. But so much of it is just bad. You know, so much of it is, you must take more than you can give. So much of it is the pain to achieve the good feeling outweighs the good feeling. So, yeah, that's the question, right? Do you bring someone here? Is antinatalism the truth? Because if you really analyze it, there's more pain in the world than good. And so it's not worth it. The good things in the world are not worth, in my opinion, are not worth the amount of pain that has to be produced in order to have these good things. I just don't see it. The problem that we have is that this is the only thing that we know. If we knew there was something else out there, then perhaps it would be an easier discussion. But we don't know for sure. We just have faith that there's something else. We have faith that there's someone watching over us that cares. But we don't know. It might not be the case. And a lot of the time, I unfortunately think it points towards that. It points towards an unthinking universe. There is no, you know what I mean? I don't even want to say it because it's so horrible. And if that's the case, then you know, I don't really see a point in trying to save this. But I have nowhere else to go when it comes to speaking about these things. Nobody else is going to listen to me. Even people in these communities don't want to hear it because it's so depressing. But I don't give a shit. You know, on this channel I can be as depressing as I fucking want, and there will be a crowd for it. There will be people who will want to listen. So that's about as much as I wanted to say. I think I got everything off of my chest that I wanted to get off my chest. There's just there's so much to think about, and I don't think we have the time to think about it all. I didn't even go into the fact of the different job issues that are happening in the, like, there's so many problems. And like, what's the good things? What's the good things? Hearing child laughter, hearing I love yous from your loved ones, eating nice food, the feeling of the sun on your skin. I mean, that's it. Right? Hanging out with your buddies. That's it. There's like a handful. There's a handful of things that we enjoy, and there is an entire continent of things that we fucking hate, and that are destructive, and that will inevitably cause all sorts of problems. It isn't worth it. And I think people are waking up to that. And I know a lot of people on the right don't want to hear it because they think it's demoralization. It's like, well, can you blame me for being demoralized, bro? Look at the fucking state of things. Look at your country. Look at the people in your country. Can you blame me for being demoralized when 10 years have gone by where people like myself have tried to change things, tried to move things in a particular direction, and at every turn Nobody wants to fucking hear it. Nobody wants to join in. Nobody wants to just admit that we're telling the truth and that we don't have a negative, evil agenda to try to stop people from being friends because, oh, we're all one world. No, we're not. We're trying to save this shit. And you're getting in the way. Our own people get in the way more than the fucking immigrants do. You got to think of it. It's fucked. It's totally fucked. And so, you know, what do? I guess I'm just going to be ranting about it until the end of my fucking existence. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm just going to create a channel like this, and I'm going to speak about everything that I want to talk about without giving a fuck about how it sounds, without giving a fuck if I'm cringe or if I'm saying things that are socially unacceptable. I don't really care anymore. I need to get these things off of my chest because I notice things. And because I notice things, I have things going around in my head a lot. And so I need to get them out in order to be functional. That's the price that I'm going to have to pay. That's the price you're going to have to pay. And if you don't like it, you don't need to listen. I guess that's it. Thank you very much.